Hi, Kellen Rouse again. So I'm going to talk about my latest EMDR session, but I want to preface this with a little information that I've learned after connecting in with other people who are also doing EMDR therapy. I didn't realize this at first, but it appears that my sessions are going quickly. I'm processing very quickly. My therapist says that there are a number of reasons for that. One of them being that I'm really just in touch with a lot of these traumatic memories and really ready to let them go. That some people have a hard time even, getting close to those memories because they're so disturbing. Sometimes it takes a while to figure out what the target memory that they need to deal with actually is. For me, I think because a lot of the trauma that I'm dealing with happened during childhood, at least 20 years ago, if not more, in most cases. And because I have done a lot of other therapy and I have done a lot of other work, that this process is going very quickly. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, it's taken me 6, 7, 8 sessions to deal with one target memory, and this chick is going through a target memory in like one session. Apparently the way that I'm going about this is not necessarily typical. Some people do. Some people are able to go through and process this quickly, but many people aren't. So if you're going through this journey, please be gentle with yourself and patient with yourself and realize that everybody's process is different. So with that being said, I'm getting close to the end of this journey. Certainly I still need to do some other work on sort of, probably more cognitive behavioral therapy kind of situation, to kind of work on building up the kinds of like habits and practices that I would like to have in place in order to feel like I'm, kind of living my best life. But today we decided to work on a target memory that I didn't realize was even really going to be a thing until I came in last week, unable to do the session because I was so emotionally worked up. And I was worked up because of some issues that I have with not feeling like I can trust myself fully to express my emotions in ways that are healthy and appropriate. And this is something that I know that I've had a problem with, but I didn't really instinctively or intuitively attach to trauma, though it seems really obvious to me after thinking about it for a while how, being around people who were out of control, who were unable to control their emotions or to express their emotions in ways that were healthy might have made me afraid of my own emotions, and how having to or how my choice not to repeat the actions of the people who were abusive to me, that part of that was actually me shutting down my ability to have kind of a full range of emotions, and then having these sort of like emotional outbursts from time to time that while they weren't necessarily, definitely not violent and then not even really necessarily harmful to other people, that it was harmful to me, and also always had me in this place where I am afraid that my emotions are going to just explode, right? The way that the people around me used to when I was younger, if I don't keep like a firm hold on them. So this is something that we realized is actually really affecting my day-to-day life and has been for a long time. It affects my work life, it affects my personal life, it affects all kinds of things because I am afraid that my emotions are going to be inappropriate in some way. I'm basically afraid of my emotions. So, so we worked on that, and so this time I didn't really have a specific memory to target where I could like bring up a visual that was associated with a specific memory. Part of this trauma also has to do with being diagnosed with a mental illness at a very early age. So I was diagnosed with what was called clinical depression. I think is now called major depressive disorder when I was 11 years old. And so as a child, I didn't really necessarily internalize a lot of the abuse that I was receiving. I realized early on that there was something wrong with the adults in my life. But when I had a professional tell me like, actually there's something also wrong with you, and that, professionals continue to do that for many, 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 many years, diagnosing me with many different kinds of things, generally under the umbrella of depression, mood disorders, and anxiety, and not PTSD or CPTSD. I really started to feel like, I have this like mental illness curse or something, that no matter what I do and how hard I work, I can't trust myself, because maybe I am that person and I just don't know it. Maybe I am that abuser and I'm not realizing it because I'm incapable of doing that for whatever reason. So it's just a lot of trust issues with myself that I needed to deal with in this session. So what I ended up visualizing was, instead of a specific memory, was this visual of this explosion that for me, I imagined as exploding out from me and around me, and then it was like the color of blood, and it was like liquid like blood, so it's almost like a blood explosion. And I guess the reason that my visual was that I feel like that my emotions are something that can just like explode. It feels very liquid. It feels very like it can just get all over someone, almost, and for whatever reason my mind went to blood and like dark, like crimson red, and so that was the visualization that I used. So this was a very metaphorical journey this time. I've gotten out of a lot of the body stuff, although on a side note, before I really get into this today, for many weeks now I have not been having the chronic back and neck pain that has plagued me for most of my life, since at least high school. My therapist, I told this to my therapist today. I was like, I've been meaning to tell you, the chronic neck and back pain that I've gone to doctors for, and they can never find any physiological problem for it, and they're always telling me I just need to lose weight or do some kind of physical therapy or whatever. For actually it was psychosomatic, and she said, well, actually what it was body flashbacks, that I was experiencing body flashbacks, and that because as I've gone through this sort of EMDR journey and been able to process the physical abuse that happened to me, that my body is not having these flashbacks anymore, and that's why I'm not feeling this pain anymore. So that's actually a measurable result already that I'm seeing with this therapy, that it makes me very optimistic that it is definitely something that's working for me. So coming back to today, so as opposed to like having all these feelings in my body, which is where a lot of the therapy was at first, I was having a lot of sort of metaphorical, very abstract kind of visualizations. And so it's kind of hard to walk through that because it was so abstract and kind of winding. But basically where I got to was that I have this defense mechanism that I put up that I described as sort of like the Hoover Dam, right? And I've always thought for the longest time that I need to have this defense there in order to keep me from exploding and to keep other people safe. And so as I was, going through the different sort of visualizations and what am I feeling now and what am I getting now and what am I getting now. It was so much visual. It was almost nothing in the body. And it was very much, I started to think about dams. And I really thought about, like the Hoover Dam was really something that came up for me. And the way that it does two things that is really damaging to the ecosystem that dams do. They're helpful for humans, but not really for anyone else. So one thing is that it floods one side, right? And so for that would be me, right? I'm flooded with all this emotion that I'm not letting out because I'm afraid of letting it out. And on the other hand, it deprives, what's downstream of the water that it needs. So I guess, metaphorically, that would be I'm depriving other people and other parts of my life of this full range and expression of emotion that would be actually nourishing to them for the most part, right? And so most of the work that I did was visualizing this dam coming down and the water returning to a regular pace, like a river. A lot of water visualization. I was even hearing like water sounds. I was imagining myself swimming in this water. And then I guess kind of the most bizarre thing that happened was when I kind of looked back after, in my mind, the water had, the big wall of water had washed out and it was like a river. I was thinking about, well, what's left there? And it's just sort of barren, flooded out place. And suddenly I had this picture of this old sort of antebellum neoclassical house, like almost like a plantation house. And I don't know why it's that style of house, except maybe that I'm originally from Alabama and Mississippi, and so I grew up seeing a lot of houses like that. This house is like undamaged, right? And old. And I go in and, there's like rocking chairs and a beautiful staircase, and it's like this 2-story building. It's very beautiful. There's no one there, but it feels very peaceful. But I wasn't really sure what the house was or why I was thinking about a house. So I kind of, went away from that image, and we were doing the whole thing about, I forgot. My visual was the explosion, the sort of like red, like blood-like explosion. And the association that I had was that it's not safe to share my feelings, I think is what it was, or I'm unable to share my feelings. It was something like that. So we came back to that, and then the thing that I wanted to change was that it is safe for me to share my emotions, that it's safe, it's okay. So in the session I did get all the way to, full confidence in the statement that it's safe for me to share my emotions, and, being able to separate from that idea that it's not safe for me to be able to share my emotions, that I'm not safe, and that I can't trust myself to share my emotions. And what I realized is that, again, this sort of protective barrier that I have erected, that for me was like the size of the Hoover Dam in my subconscious and my psyche, isn't really doing anything for anybody. It's not doing anything for anybody. It's harming me. It's causing me to hold all this stuff in. It's not allowing me to feel a full range of emotion, whether it's anger or joy. I'm just only allowing myself this very small sliver of emotion that I consider to be safe, and it just trickles out the dam, as I see fit. And that has made me emotionally unavailable to other people, while at the same time making me feel emotionally out of control on the inside, and all this pressure building up on the inside. So at some point, my mind made a connection between that and the house, and I came to a realization that for me, the house was representative of this full range of emotion, and that house was there and undamaged, but just flooded under the water really metaphorically being my emotions. So that was most of the session. I mean, this is like an hour and a half long session that I'm wrapping up in 15 minutes or so. But I feel I'm tired as usual. I'm always exhausted after these things. But I feel very calm, and I'm hoping that I can work on that full range of emotion and continuing to feel like I can share my emotions, I can have emotions, I can be emotional, and it's not going to harm anyone. It's not going to harm me. I still have a lot of trust issues that I need to work on. But another thing that kind of came up in this was that I can't really, I have to let go of trying to control how other people react to me. Right? Because that's another thing that this is about. It's about managing other people's reactions to me by not being emotionally available and by not being emotionally authentic. So I came to the realization that I was spending a lot of energy trying to manage things that I should just let go of. I should just allow myself to have feelings and to feel those feelings, even if they're intense, whether they're good, happy feelings, joyful feelings, or sad feelings and angry feelings, that I need to allow myself to have those feelings, and that having that full range of emotions is part of the human experience. And when I shut myself off from that, I'm shutting myself off from I'm basically shutting myself off from life and from living, which explains a lot of my depression, because I'm separating myself from all of the parts of life by trying to protect myself, or trying to gosh, this is getting kind of windy, by trying to protect myself and others by keeping my emotions in. I've not been allowing myself to really experience life fully. And because I haven't been experiencing life fully, that's contributed to me feeling depressed and hopeless and feeling like life is kind of pointless. I'm hoping that through this work, I will be able to find more joy in my life, more purpose in my life, and also to just allow myself to be an emotional person and not to constantly lock myself inside only this rational part of me that I do highly value, but that's not the only part of me. That's not only who I am. I'm both a rational, logical, reasoned person, and also someone with a lot of emotions. I'm a human being. So that's what it comes down to. So that was basically my EMDR session today. I did, again, process this fully in one session. And again, if you're watching this and you are having to go through several sessions with your EMDR, please don't judge your progress by my progress. We're different people and we're handling things in different ways. So I hope this was helpful. I know at this time there aren't that many people who watch these videos, but I'm happy for those of you who do, and I hope that these are helpful. And if you ever feel like leaving something down in the comments, I'm more than happy to address it. So thanks for watching. Bye.